So Jim Coonan is often referred to as the father of entrepreneurial Oregon. And we're really pleased to have him here tonight. He has an amazing CV. He was the first venture catalyst in Oregon. And he set a statewide standard for supporting entrepreneurs in many, many different roles. As past chair of the Oregon Entrepreneur Network, he's been pivotal in establishing various angel investing networks and business accelerators around the state. I could spend a lot of time talking about it. He will cover some. Without further ado, please welcome Jim Coonan.
Well, good evening. I'm Jim Coonan. Thank you. Looks like a good crowd. First off, can you see me and hear me? It seems like you guys back there are way, way back there. Okay. So, thank you for that introduction. I'm not really sure I'm the father of entrepreneurial activity. I think that goes to Adam and Eve when they opened the first juice bar. I think they did that. And I'm also thankful that he didn't call me the grandfather of entrepreneurship. I have reached a certain age and, I've gotten to be so a little bit older. So I think Rick's going to help me with the slides. And I thought I might start by just telling you a little bit about myself, which you probably can't even see back there. But my background in terms of I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've been involved in consumer products, defense, aerospace, telecom, software, and agriculture. We'll talk about that in a second. And then in terms of entrepreneurial support, I was the past chair of Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, past co-chair of Angel Oregon, past chair of the Tech Alliance in Bend, Oregon, past chair. A lot of these are past. I'm not past, but I'm past chair of a lot of these. Past chair of Portland Angel Network, founding member of the Oregon Quality Initiative. I was the venture catalyst, as Rick mentioned, in Central Oregon. And I was the founding executive director for RAIN, which stands for Regional Accelerator and Innovation Network, which is doing a lot of what SoReady's doing in the Willamette Valley. And I'm also a current board member of the Oregon Growth Board, and I'm currently invested in 26 startups, so that makes me not so smart. You gotta believe. So I'm definitely involved in the entrepreneurial scene, please. So I have been involved in creating a lot of the infrastructure in the state to support entrepreneurs. So I helped to create the Oregon Angel Fund in Portland, which has now become the largest angel fund in the state. Eric Rosenfeld, I came up with the idea, but he's made it go, so the credit really belongs to Eric. But they're investing now close to $1 million or over $1 million a year in angel or entrepreneurial startups. OEN Catalyst Fund, we're just launching the Willamette Angels Fund, which is a year-round Angels Fund in the Willamette Valley. Seven Peaks Venture Fund, it's a seed fund in Bend. Cascade Angels, we were talking about Julie Harrelson. Actually, when I was the venture catalyst in EDCO, we hired Julie to start Cascade Angels, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm an investor as well.
Great.
We were also, earlier, the governor was talking about Elevate Capital, so I've worked with Nitin and Rye in creating the Elevate Capital, Portland Seed Fund, and then at one time I ran an electronics company. I sold that, and then I worked for the Oregon University system, and part of this group called OCAD, which God knows who came up with this name, but it stands for something like Oregon Council for Knowledge and Economic Development. And we came up with the idea of signature research centers, and there are now 3 in the state, so we came up with that. I also worked on the constitutional change to allow universities to invest in the startups that they spin out. So they actually can now take equity, so it's another incentive for our universities to spin out startups, because they can actually get some financial gain when those companies have an exit. Founders Pad Accelerator in Bend, and the regional, we talked about RAIN, and then also I'm a huge advocate for the statewide expansion for venture catalysts. So I was the venture catalyst in Central Oregon, and we now have them in Willamette Valley, Mid-Coast, and Rick now doing it for So Ready, taking over from Tim Root. Okay. So enough about me. So I also have a local connection. So my family was in the timber industry. My great uncle ran Pelican Bay Lumber Company over in Klamath Falls. And my dad, mom and dad, in 1963 bought a number of properties and put them together, and it's called C2 Cattle Company. So if you ever drive out on Highway 140, that last valley before you go up to Fish Lake and Lake of the Woods, that's C2 Cattle Company. And this is a picture back in 1963 when we were just getting started, and we're still there. What's our next slide? Go to the next one. There we go, and it's gorgeous. If you ever go out that way, we've given 1,600 acres to the Southern Oregon Land Conservancy. And if you ever want a tour, we think we're doing some great stuff out there in terms of promoting Oregon agriculture in a sustainable way. Please. And raise cattle. So being sort of the marketing sales guy, I got to say we also do direct marketing of cattle. So if you're interested in buying any C2 local cattle, I even brought our ranch manager, Jason Stand-up. There it is. Jason Salon, he's here. So track that man down, or you just go to C2 Cattle Company, the website, and learn about, you can even see a picture of my 97-year-old mom, who still comes to the ranch and is very active. So that's my spiel. But really what I'm here to talk about is why entrepreneurship is important and what are some of the things that are happening in the state of Oregon to support entrepreneurs. Okay? Please. Okay, so you guys can't read this, so I'm just going to tell you what it is. So the Kauffman Foundation, they did this landmark study. And what they did is they looked at all the jobs being generated in this country over a 30-year period. And they looked at all the jobs that were both being created and destroyed. And what they found out is that the net generator of jobs almost exclusively came from companies 5 years and less, right? And if you think about it, it makes sense. So I ran a company called the WECO Corporation, still in Milwaukee, Oregon, employs about 350 people. So we were interested in one thing, improving profits. If you're an established company, how do you do that? Well, what you try to do, more revenues, lower cost. You don't want to add any employees. Really, you don't. You want to try to drive efficiency with the same or fewer employees. But if you're a startup, you have to hire employees. You have to. And that's why they are the major generator of new job growth in this country. And there's another reason too. They're solving problems. And my great example is back in 2009, my wife, who's here today, wanted an Apple product. And I went down to the local store, or the local shopping mall, which was dead deserted. There was not a soul in that place except at the Apple store. And at the Apple store, I went in, and they said, hey, thanks for coming to the Apple store. Here's a number, and we'll call your number and we'll let you into the store to buy our product. The whole place was empty except at the Apple store. If you have an innovative product, it will sell product. If you're successful, and the other thing they find out is if you have exciting, innovative ideas, they will grow even during downturns, right? And if you're in more rural parts of the state, these small companies are absolutely critical. So one of the things we said in Central Oregon is, hey, we're about a tenth the size of Portland. So if we have a 10-person company that we create in Central Oregon, that's like a 100-person company in Portland. Now, I don't know what it is in Southern Oregon, but it's going to be some kind of dynamic like that. These small companies, you don't have to be the next Google to move the needle in terms of economic development. If you have a 10-person company, you're having a big impact. If you're having a 5-person company, you're having a big impact on economic development. So this is absolutely the linchpin of our economy, not just here in Oregon, but across the country. Please. And some other information, this is the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network. I thought this was kind of interesting too. Some research, they did a handful of companies, 5% of all the companies in this country create over 2/3 of the jobs, right? And what they call high impact ones, they are the ones that really scale. They typically are in the traded sector and they're scalable ideas. So if you open a pizza parlor, that's important. You're employing people, you're paying payroll taxes. But if you have a concept that you can scale and sell across the country, that's a big idea. That tends to move the needle. And that's what they call the traded sector. And traded sector is cool, right? So there's two kinds of economic development. You can circulate money in a region, or you can bring new dollars in. If you're traded sector, you're bringing new dollars. You want other people's money coming into your region. I mean, it's great to circulate it within it. Now that's important too, don't get me wrong. But the traded sector is critical. We need other people's money to drive our economy, and that's what these companies do. And the interesting thing is that people stay in the region. So I was talking to a legislator about Rain, who I was running. They say, Jim, this is terrible. We heard one of these companies got sold. And I said, no, that's good news. That's good news because that validates that company had a story that somebody was worth paying money to. And guess what? The entrepreneurs don't leave. They love living in Ashland. They just want a way to make their company successful, right? And what we're trying to do is give them the tools to be successful. So in addition to job creation, the other piece that we like to talk about is wealth creation. Even if a company is sold, that money comes back, usually into the economy, because entrepreneurs are famous for reinvesting in their local economy. They sell one company, they're going to start another. They don't want to, this is what's happening. People were saying, we had a company, I think it was Jive Software, got sold in Portland. People were tearing their hair out. Oh, here's another local Portland company bought by a Silicon Valley company. Guess what? Nobody wants to move to Silicon Valley. I mean, my daughter, I feel very good. She works at Facebook, right? But she will not be able to afford to buy a house unless she lives like out in Modesto and drives 3 hours into work, right? She's single right now. It's great. But if she wants to start a family, she's going to want to be in Oregon, right? She wants to be able to not take 3 hours to get to work. She wants to be able to afford a house. Those things, when these companies sell Jive Software, most of those employees still in Portland. Because those people, that's really often the value of these companies. The intellectual property is walking around on their legs, right? Those people are not moving to Silicon Valley. They like living in Portland, they like living in Ashland, they like living in Eugene, if we can give them the resources to stay here. If they can't find the resources, they'll either fail or they'll go to where those resources are. All right? Okay, so I like to talk about, in terms of economic development, the third leg of the economic development stool. So we've always talked about recruitment, which I think is kind of a zero-sum game, but I do believe in opportunistic recruitment. Somebody comes to your region, you want to be able to say, hey, here's a field ready to go build right now. Go, make it happen. Opportunistic recruitment, I believe in that. Second, retention. Who are your best customers? Companies are already up and going. We want to help to get them from 10 to 100 employees. But that third leg of the stool, innovation and entrepreneurship. If we do not have innovation and entrepreneurship, we will not have future jobs. We will not have the creation of wealth. We will not be able to pay for our schools. We will not be able to build and fix the potholes in the road. Entrepreneurs, I believe, are the seed corn of our economic development. And we must do everything we can to support them. And it doesn't take huge amounts of dollars. That's what's crazy about this. You need dollars and you need it in consistent form, but it does not take huge amounts of dollars. Yes, please. Okay, but the problem is, if you can't see this, it's a cone. And if you're an entrepreneur sitting here, in fact, probably everyone knows this, most startups fail, right? It's highly risky. Like 1 in 100 are successful. And they've done some research on this, on how can we improve the odds for entrepreneurs, because it is a highly risky kind of thing. And they've done some research, whatever the next slide is, please. Okay, so turns out that there's a way to turn the tables on this failure rate. And it consists of access to people, programs, and capital, and a vibrant network to connect the entrepreneurs to those resources. So today we were at visiting an entrepreneur, Mascot, and they were talking about, thank you, yes, go for it. Also, by the way, an underserved community consumer product, more of it, I know you don't think Ashland is rural, but compared to Portland, it's not in the Portland metro area. And women and people of color, those are the three underserved demographics. I'm an advocate for all entrepreneurs, but I know it's particularly tough if you fall in those areas. If you're trying to access capital in Ashland, well, what am I telling you this? You know this. It's harder in Ashland than it is in Portland. And by the way, it's harder if you're a consumer product than if you're a tech product. And why is that? Well, a lot of the angel investors like myself are techies, right? We understand technology. You tend to invest in what you understand, and it's also very capital efficient. It doesn't take a lot of dollars to scale those things up. So, if we can provide access to people in the form of mentors and advisors, programs like accelerators, postgraduate programs for entrepreneurs, and access to capital, we can double the odds of success for entrepreneurs. The problem is not that we are not creating terrific ideas. The problem is we fail to connect the entrepreneurs to the resources that they need. That is the problem. And often the problem is the resources themselves are not well connected to each other. We have these silos of resources that don't understand that there's complementary resources across the street. Now in Central Oregon, we had this great program where I worked with a guy named Steve Curley, who ran the SBDC, and I had a 100-person mentor database that was underdeployed, and he said, well, I got lots of companies. Those mentors, they can be useful for more than just startups. They can be for later stage companies. So we started working together, and I started to deploy those mentors. And they were saying, Jim, thank you. You put me on this list, and for 2 years I didn't hear a call. Now I'm getting associated with a company. So there's limited dollars. If we can work together, we can make 1 + 1 = 3. But remember these things: access, people, programs, capital, and the network to make that happen. You double the odds for entrepreneurs. So I'll give you a couple examples. So one's RAIN, which stands for Regional Accelerator and Innovation Network. It's a really cool collaboration between Oregon State, University of Oregon, government, and the private sector. That is really an amazing collaboration, all focused on increasing the odds for entrepreneurs. Not just entrepreneurs coming out of the university, but out of the broader community, right? In fact, half of the clients that are served by RAIN are just from the community. No association with either Oregon State or University of Oregon. Okay. And the strategy is pretty straightforward. You can't see it at the back, but it's programs, people, access to capital. That's what we provide. Yeah. And we create a pipeline, right? Because it's a mistake just to have a series of programs. What you really need to do is think, I'm going to have a pipeline that goes from ideation, the light bulb, through the creation of the product or service and into the marketplace. And so I need to be thinking about these companies. How do I support them from their birth through early stage, right? The problems of proving your business model at the early stage are different than managing your cash flow when you're a $2 million company. So we need to provide this pipeline of services, pipeline of companies, and that's what RAIN does. And we don't do it alone. There aren't enough dollars in the universe to do it alone. But we do it in partnership, and these are the partners, both universities, Business Oregon's there, and then local associations like the Technology Association of Oregon, SBDCs, both universities. So together, we got together and said, look, individually, we can't make this happen. But if we collaborate and use our dollars together, we can help and create a pipeline of companies, a conveyor belt of companies. Yeah, some are going to fail, a lot are going to fail, but every year we're going to be continuing moving these companies down the pipeline and giving them resources that are appropriate for them at their particular stage, for what they need. Right? Okay. Please. And we do this, you can't read this either, but there's a lot of partners up there. There's cities and counties and SBDCs and universities and on and on and on and on, and private individuals, by the way. And businesses, sponsorships. You got to bring the whole kit. It takes, to borrow an expression, it takes a community to raise an entrepreneur. It really takes an entrepreneur. And there's some people that say, but that's what entrepreneurs are about. They do it on their rugged individualists. They do it on their own. And yeah, they can do it. If you want that kind of failure rate, if you're willing to wait, and a lot of people are willing, eventually they'll figure it out, and they will. But if you want to accelerate the program, there is a role for government, higher education, nonprofit, business entities to gather together to support the entrepreneur. There is a role. And they've done a bunch of stuff. If you ever get a chance to go to Eugene, incredible deal where the city of Eugene gave a building, downtown Eugene, which is also part of their redevelopment effort, gave it to the university. The university put buku bucks into revamp this center, which is the accelerator, and it's a really cool place. They got students, they got professors, we got entrepreneurs, we got mentors, all coming together in this physical space. And by the way, a lot of people think physical space is a very sexy thing. The most valuable, important piece of an entrepreneurial environment are the people, and it's all, wow, that is really cool. We recruited them to set up an office in Bend, and they've done a lot of deals since then, right? And it's to companies that already have cash flow. They've got an interesting business model, but they don't have 3 years of financials. They're not yet ready, and they see their role as they're not the competitor to the banks. They're the high school getting ready for college. That's craft 3. We got them to come and say, build your office here. That's the sort of things that maybe Central Oregon needs. Maybe we need a craft 3 building a headquarters right here in Ashland or Medford or Grants Pass, whatever that is. We created a stable of experts, which is mentors that we could connect to these entrepreneurs. Over 115 mentors. And then we hope to also revitalize some industry clusters, including the Tech Alliance, and now they're focused on food products. So that's pretty cool. Okay. And there's a lot of statistics. I've got some better ones coming with. Okay. And by the way, broad community support. This is who supports the venture capitalists. These are the people. So EDCO does. They support it, but if nothing else, because they got office and all the support you got there. Deschutes County, private sector, Business Oregon, the City of Bend, and by the way, Bank of Cascades was one of the funders for my position when we first launched that. Thank you, Bank of the Cascades. So we get the business community, and by the way, everywhere I went, I said, thank you, Bank of the Cascades, right? It's a great advertising model. Talk to this man afterwards, right? Okay, go ahead. So, I'm an advocate of creating these venture catalysts all over the state. And with the help of OEN, which you may have not heard of, but the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, they've really driven that. And they've got money from the Oregon Community Foundation. So part of his funding is coming from the Oregon Community Foundation. That was a grant put together by the only statewide entrepreneurial organization that's just focused on entrepreneurs, the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network. And now we have 4, and we hope to create one in Portland Metro, because Portland Metro, they need help too. And this research has been proven by the Meyer Memorial Trust, the Oregon Community Foundation, the recent capital scan where they look at the whole state and they say where are the gaps in capital. All of that has proven the need that even Portland needs help too, because guess what? Even though there's more resources there, it's like a labyrinth trying to figure out what's the right resource for the right entrepreneur. So big thanks to Oregon Community Foundation. And by the way, the Ford Family Foundation, got to give a shout out to them too. They gave us some dollars to establish the venture catalyst on the mid-coast too. So doing great. And then Business Oregon, I know we got a Business Oregon rep here too. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You mind if I make a constructive suggestion, what I hope is constructive?
Sure.
Could you speak a little more into the mic, and when you turn your head, use the mic with it?
Good. I'll tell you what, I'll just stand here for a while. Mix it up a little bit. First, I'm nearsighted, but okay. So you guys didn't hear the first 20 minutes, basically. Okay, I'll start all over again. Okay, what is our next slide? Okay, so this is the metrics. So I could pound you with a lot of metrics, but this is pretty cool.
So this is the metrics for the fiscal year that ended in June of 2016 for the 3 venture capitals. One in Southern Oregon, keeping in mind that Tim Root was half-time, right? He was half-time. We had one in the Willamette Valley, and we had one in Central Oregon. 1 year. In that 1 year, they assisted 272 companies, created 188 jobs. Those companies raised nearly $21 million of capital. The economic impact, if you look at the jobs created, and all I did is I looked at the average wage in Oregon, and we could debate this all day, but I wanted to come up with a number. I looked at the average wage for all employees, all employers in 2015, and I multiplied that times the number of jobs created, and then I added the new capital brought into those companies. And it comes up in 1 year to $30 million. The total cost of those 3 entrepreneurs was $305,000. That means, and if you ever think about ROI, this is an incredible number. We got about a 100 return for every buck that we invested. We got $100 back. When you think about your own investments, if you could put $1,000 in something and get $100,000 back in a year, would you feel pretty good about that?
Damn right.
I would. And so I would argue that this venture catalyst position is one of the most effective and efficient economic development tools that we have in this state. But it is as hard as nails to fund it because it's people. So, we have to rally together to fund these positions. And by the way, these people are not paid. Nobody can retire on what you pay these people. And they work their butts off. But it is very effective and extremely efficient economic development tool. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that was a lot of stuff. And if my eyesight was better, I'd stay back there and I'll wander around. So this is stuff that works. So I've been doing this for like 20 years, and I found some stuff that works. And take it or leave it, this is the stuff that I think works. The venture catalyst strategy, I think, is the most efficient, effective economic development tool that we have in the state. And shame on us if we can't find the money, both locally and at the state, to fund these positions. Shame on us. Because it is proven it helps entrepreneurs. And it makes sense. Connect entrepreneurs, the resources they need, the odds of success, done. They will improve. I swear to God, that strategy works. Regionally based or regionally focused sources of capital. Why is that? You know why? People like to invest in their backyard. They want to drop in and see how that entrepreneur is doing. Because guess what? Every dollar that an investor put into a company, they worked their butt off. That money just didn't come off of a tree. In fact, an interesting stat about angel investors, like 99% of them were entrepreneurs. Their money came from being successful business people. There's very little inherited wealth being invested in startups. So these are business people. And by the way, what they're investing in is not only their money, is also their experience. Take their mentorship and it adds value. But it's important to have regionally focused sources of capital. It's tough to get that Portland fund to come down and take a look at a great idea here in Southern Oregon. So I support, when Steve was talking about creating your year-round angel fund, absolutely. Because your angels, Steve Vincent I'm referring to, your angels care about what's happening in Southern Oregon. They're much more likely to go to bat and open doors and support and mentor those companies. So locally focused sources of capital, absolutely important. Okay, support for entrepreneurs getting connected, navigating the labyrinth. That's, we're talking about the venture capital. Very important. That if you did nothing else, even if you didn't provide more capital, if you just help them navigate the labyrinth, you will see improvement. Access to people, programs, and capital. It's really simple. People, programs, capital. Those three, it's like, simple cookie dough. I put those three things together, it's a great recipe. Resource networks. Getting resources connected to each other and collaborating both regionally and statewide. You cannot do it with one entity. So READY cannot do it by itself. So READY, working with Southern Oregon University, working with SBDC, working with Business Oregon, working with Bank of the Cascades. Everybody, it takes a community to raise an entrepreneur. Everybody has to come to the party, and it has to have a regional focus. You guys know what's best for your region. And it's great. I can come down from Portland, and even though I have some connection here, I don't understand your ecosystem. Only you guys do. Regional strategic planning. Don't sub-optimize, help your neighbor. Right? I see that too much. Right? It's these silos of resources that don't work together. And it's a shame because there's very few dollars. Let's pool those dollars, make 1 + 1 = 6. Need dedicated, focused staff support. So volunteers are terrific, but unless you have dedicated staff support, things do not get better. By the way, the Willamette Angel Conference last year had a record year, not coincidentally because Caroline Cummings, who is our venture catalyst there, was focused on it. Record number of investment, record attendance, record companies. By the way, record number of women entrepreneurs. And by the way, Caroline attracted 12 women angel investors when the previous year we had 3. So what you focus on does improve, but you got to pay for it. You need dedicated staff. Okay, and then finally, and I've been talking too long, I'll shut up. Think of entrepreneurship as an economic development strategy that you invest in over a long period of time. If you pull the carrots up to see how they're going, it ain't going to work. And the sad part about this, it's probably 10,
It's really good.
15, 20 years to see the ultimate effect. But when it starts to roll, it's impressive. I mean, look what's happening in Central Oregon. There's a lot of cool stuff. But that did not just happen overnight. That's like 15 years of hard work. And think about with Southern Oregon, I came to your first pub talk. That's what Steve was telling me. I came to your first, and that was like 6 years ago. And you think about how far you've come in 6 years. But the reality is it's another 10 to 15. So you got to be patient, and you have to allocate, you have to find a way to find consistent, small amounts of capital to support these kind of activities. Thank you. That was fun.